words in it, only two alphabets are joined. Shar means, if we break up the word Akshar into two, the first word would be A, the second word would be Shar. The meaning of Shar is, and therefore, if you add A to it, it becomes imperishable. So the meaning of Akshay is imperishable. So, as the name goes, Sri Krishna is explaining to us in the chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita about Akshar Brahma Yoga, which means how do we unite with the imperishable personage? My dear friends, we all are in the material realm. We all are in the cosmos. And this cosmos is completely perishable. It is transient, it is time bound. Sri Krishna is explaining in this chapter that there is a realm beyond the perishable realm where the soul has to reach. If the soul reaches the imperishable realm, it will not have to fall back into the cycle of birth and death. However, if it sticks or clings on to the material cosmos world only, then it will keep on rotating in the cycle of birth and death innumerous times. Therefore, Sri Krishna says here that I am going to introduce Akshar Brahma Yoga, how to unite with Akshar Brahma, or let us say, in our understanding, the imperishable, the indestructible personage. So this chapter takes us beyond the material world. Now, how does this chapter begin? This chapter begins with a question raised by Arjun. The question is such that there are multiple questions hidden within the same question. And Sri Krishna begins to answer his questions and elaborates upon the teachings of Upanishads. So this is how this chapter begins, and we get answers to the questions of Arjun, which are broadly the questions which are also there in our minds. So I will share with you the questions which are raised by Arjun, and we can proceed with this chapter. So just allow me a minute. Okay. So, first of all, I will share with you all the introduction to the chapter 8. We can have a little discussion over it and proceed to the verses. So, here are a few points about the introduction to the chapter 8. Now, as you can see on the screen, Sri Krishna Ji here is expounding the concepts of Upanishads in detail. For your knowledge, what are the Upanishads? There are 108 Upanishads written by various sages because as the sages kept on exploring their knowledge, many of them gave different types of Upanishads based on various topics, in which they have come out with the essence of the Vedas. The Vedas are the primal source of knowledge, from where the rishis, the sages, have managed to extract the essence of those Vedas, and they have delivered the essence to us in the Upanishads. Sri Krishna is now extracting the essence of the Upanishads, and he is delivering that essence to us in this particular chapter in detail. The beauty here is that Lord Sri Krishna knows all the Upanishads, he knows all the details hidden in it. And through Bhagavad Gita, he is trying to bring out all those details at once in one chapter. And this is the 8th chapter, where he brings out the details of the Upanishads very well. So here, what is Sri Krishna discussing about? Let us see the head points here. He explains about the destination of the soul after it drops the body, or you may say after death. Just as we go to office or to school, college, where do we come back? We have to come back home, which is our destination. Similarly, just as the body needs a home, our soul too has come from an abode into this material plane. And this soul will have to get back to its own abode. However, in this material realm or in the cosmos, the force of Maya, the negative energies, is so much so that it has made the soul forget its original identity and its own abode. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, as well as in other scriptures, we get to know what is our real identity, from where have we come into this material world, and what do we need to do here so that we can get back to our destination. So, Sri Krishna says here that after the soul will drop the body, where is the destination of the soul? He's talking about that. Again, he says one thing very certainly, that if you remember God at the time when you drop the body, that is in the last moment of this life, when one is struggling to drop the body, at that time, if you manage to remember Sri Krishna ji, then he says that even when you drop the body, you will come to my abode. You will come to me. So, what about the one who does not remember Sri Krishna at the very end moment? That question also arises in our mind. Dear friends, it is said in this respect that whatever one remembers in the last point of his life before dropping the body, he will be able to reach that itself. In other words, if someone remembers Sri Krishna, he will reach the abode of Sri Krishna. Someone might not be able to remember the Lord because his mind may be clinging on to the material objects. If that is the case, such a soul will have to come back into the cycle of birth and death because the mind is clinging on to the material objects. Therefore, it is extremely important to train the mind in such a way that when the end moment comes, our mind is prepared to not think of anything else but Sri Krishna's abode alone or Sri Krishna's feet. That is how we will be able to reach his abode once the body is dropped. So, the way to do it, how do you practice that in such a way that at the end moment of your life, you'll be able to remember it? All that is also explained by Sri Krishna to Arjuna and to the entire mankind. Please practice this, Sri Krishna ji is saying in the chapter 8. And why it is so important? As we keep doing the verses, we will come across the importance of practicing this also. Further, I can see in the third subpoint, Sri Krishna says we can do this by thinking of his qualities, attributes, virtues, etc. That is, he's explaining to Arjun that how you will be able to remember me in the very last moment of your life. When you have to keep practicing taking the name of Sri Krishna while and again, how will you do it? The only way is when Sri Krishna is so dear to you, so important to you, that you keep on remembering his names, his virtues, his qualities, and you keep on expressing gratitude at his feet. Why? Because Sri Krishna has not only given you this life, he is also giving you his own abode after you end this life. To you end, you drop your body, and he is giving you his own abode to enter and to rest there. So, by all means, we remember Sri Krishna, the Supreme Divine Being, for everything that he has given to us. So, a persistent yogic meditation upon Sri Krishna by chanting his names is also a very good practice. You might have heard your elders doing this. They sing a lot of bhajans. And time and again, they keep meeting for singing bhajans, for enjoying the divine songs of Sri Krishna, where one person sings ahead of everyone, the rest will follow. They will sing in chorus. Why? Because the more and more you recall the divine names of Sri Krishna, and that too lovingly, that much more energy, connectivity you will get with Sri Krishna. That arouses a lot of love in your heart, and it also purifies your heart. Therefore, singing devotional songs and bhajans, chanting various names of Sri Krishna, and trying to recollect all his pastimes that he did in Braja and Ras and in Paramdham, his own abode. All this lets us remember Sri Krishna in every moment of our life. So that's what Sri Krishna says, that by all this, you can remember me at the very end moment of your life. Further, the next subpointer says, through exclusive devotion, when our mind is perfectly absorbed in Him, we will elevate from material dimension to the spiritual realm. Again, very, very important. Today, one of the verses we're going to study Arjun has beautifully placed the question, and the answer to it by Sri Krishna is even more amazing. So, in which Sri Krishna says, we have been enveloped by this body. That is, the soul has been enveloped by this body, and this body is right now in the material realm where we want all kinds of facilities, we want so many sophistications, luxuries around us. However, all that is essential for the body. The soul does not attach to the material realm. The soul attaches to the spiritual realm because that is what the soul requires. However, as of now, we all are only clinging on to how do we get luxuries, how do we get a very good lifestyle. We have made it the motive of our life without even understanding that this could only be the motive of the body, not the soul. Of course, we need a very good standard of living. We need to have lot of luxuries, but not in a way that it will keep binding us. It will make us fall in the cycle of birth and death. We need to overcome the cycle of material realm and enter into the spiritual realm. That's what Sri Krishna is highlighting over here. And how could one do this? One can only do this by chanting the names of Sri Krishna and through exclusive devotion to Sri Krishna. That's the only way. So, with all this in our mind, we will begin with our chapter. Sri Krishna is also talking to us about many, many abodes which are there in the material world as well as those which are there beyond the cosmos. Now, I will share the map with you, which shows the various levels of consciousness. We are in the mortal world. I hope you all remember this. And above the mortal world, there are so many levels of consciousness until we reach the heaven. But that's not the end. That's just another place. And you enjoy the luxuries. You fall back into the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, that's not the end destination at all. Sri Krishna takes our minds further to the other levels of consciousness that are there in this cosmos. And he does it so smoothly, so beautifully in this chapter. Finally, he takes us to the final destination where the soul will be reaching Sri Krishna's abode. So, with this brief introduction in our mind, let's proceed with the very first verse. And I will give you the verse where Arjun is placing his question to Sri Krishna, and the way Sri Krishna answers it is extremely beautiful. So let's have a look at Arjun's question, Sri Krishna's answer to it. Yes. Now, hey, O Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, just look at his questions. What is Brahman? Or whom we also call as absolute reality? This is his first question. And the second question that he is asking is, what is Adhyatma? And what is Karma? So the three questions which he has asked so far, The first question is, what is Brahman? What is Adhyatma? And what is Karma? Further, he also places his question saying that what is said to be Adibhut and who is said to be Adidaiva? Who is Adhiyagnya in the body and how is he the Adhiyagnya? Now, as a part of an exercise, what we can do is we can just note down all the six main questions that he has asked Sri Krishna, which will help us in our study. So the very first thing is he's asking about Brahman. I will just make a list of those main points. He's asking about who is Brahman. Then the second thing, Adhyatma. The third thing that he asks is what is karma. The fourth one he's asking is Adhibhut. The fifth one he's asking who is Adhidaiva. And he has also placed another question asking who is Adhiyagna. And beyond all, Arjun's question is that how do we know you, O Krishna, or how do we remember you at the time of dropping the body, at the time of death? So that's yet another question that Arjun has asked. How to know Shri Krishna at the time of death. So if you are done, we will proceed with the answers that Shri Krishna has given to Arjun. And dear friends, we also need to note that all the six questions that Arjun has asked, in fact, the seven questions, have been asked by Arjun in the first and the second verse of this chapter. From the third chapter, Shri Krishna begins to respond. So I think if all of you are done, I will proceed to the third verse, where Lord Krishna answers Arjun. The first question was, who is Brahman? Now, Shri Krishna says, the supreme, indestructible entity is called Brahman. So that's the answer which Shri Krishna has given. In other words, my dear friends, we can also think the other way around, that there are many other gods and goddesses who have got partial powers, but the Godhead is Sri Krishna, who is the supreme entity. And of course, he is indestructible, he is perishable. So let's remember this answer. The supreme, indestructible entity is called Brahman. Now, let's proceed to the next answer which Sri Krishna has given. Arjun's next question was, what is Adhyatma? To which Sri Krishna responds, one's own self is called Adhyatma. All the while, we have been saying, my Atma, my soul. Dear friends, the word self is the word used for the soul or the Atma. So, whenever I use the word in this chapter that the self is so and so, the self is enveloped by the body, etc., it will mean the self is the Atma or the soul within us. Okay. So, in response to Arjun's question, what is Adhyatma? Krishna says, Adhyatma is one's own self, one's own Atma. Okay. Now, let's proceed to the third response of Sri Krishna. He says, actions pertaining to the material personality of living beings and its development are called karma, or in other words, it is the fruitive activities. The fruitive activities. So here, Sri Krishna is explaining to Arjun, whatever actions you perform in this material world, all that is going to give you some fruit or the other. If it is a good action, there is a good fruit to it. However, if it is an evil action, it will have bad fruits to it. It is a fruitive action or a fruitive activity, and that is called karma in Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, even if I raise my hand, even if I talk, even if I sleep or eat or any activity that I'm doing, to the extent the breathing which is going on every second is also nothing but karma. Whatever transaction takes place by me is my karma. So now within karma, we can see good and bad. But as of now, Sri Krishna is only explaining what is karma, the fruitive activities of human beings. Okay. Is it clear so far? Any questions about this topic? Okay. So now let me give you the further answers which come in the fourth verse. Okay. Now in the fourth verse, Krishna continues to give the further answers. So far, we have answered three questions. The fourth question raised was, what is Adibhut? The answer to which is the physical manifestation that is constantly changing is called Adibhut. Now, how does Sri Krishna address Arjun? He says, O best of the embodied souls. That is a superb, a brilliant way to address Arjun. And by saying so, he is disclosing the fact, what is Adibhut? We all know that the world is changing every second. And the change is so fast that many a times we do not even imagine and the change takes place. We do not even notice the change, but it has taken place. So there are very fast changes in the world and constant changes in the world. Now, here, Shri Krishna is saying that the constant changing which takes place in the physical realm, in the material realm, is called Adhibhut. I'm just waiting for you all to complete before I proceed. So, in other words, we can say change is the only constant, and that change is Adhibhut. A famous Greek philosopher has said this: change is the only constant because it has so much of consistency. Changes take place every second. So change is the only constant. And that is called as Abhibhut.
Sakhi, I have a
Do you
question.
want me to repeat? Yeah, please go ahead.
So, is that philosopher you talk about Socrates?
It is about Heraclitus. If you go on Google, if you will be able to search this, uh, he has made this statement that change is the only constant thing which takes place every second. Okay. So after which, now let's move on to the next response of Sri Krishna. To the question, what is Adhidaiva? Sri Krishna says the universal form of God which presides over the celestial gods in this creation is called Adhidaiva. Now, as I've already said, please understand this. I will show you the map for the same, but right now I'm trying to explain verbally. The Supreme Divine Personality is Sri Krishna. He is the Almighty, the All-Powerful. Sri Krishna has delegated his powers unto the celestial gods. And why so? It is very practical to understand that the main powers and the substantial powers, even in the office, are there in the hands of a boss. He delegates those powers to the employees to run the office, to complete the work, without which the work will not proceed. In the same manner, Sri Krishna is the Godhead, and he is commanding all the celestial gods. He gives his own powers to all the other celestial gods, as we have already discussed sometime before, maybe, that one of the gods, for instance, is given the responsibility to shower rains. The sun god is given the responsibility to bring the bright light into this world. The moon god is given some other responsibility to take care of the plants and the vegetation. Similarly, there are gods of fire, wind, the space. So many activities are going on in the cosmos at a time. Everything is very well controlled by the celestial gods. But we need to understand through Bhagavad Gita that all these celestial gods have got partial powers. And those powers too are the powers of Sri Krishna delegated unto them in order to perform their activities. So, having understood this part, let's go to the response of Sri Krishna. What is he saying? The universal form of God which presides over the celestial God. That is, he is talking about that universal form of himself which is about the celestial gods. That is called as Adhidaiva. I hope it is clear. Do you want some more explanation to it? Please let me know. Okay, so soon after we complete all the responses, I will try to ask questions to make sure you have understood it properly or not. So this is called Adhidaiva. Then another question raised was, what is Adhiyagna? Krishna says, I, who dwell in the heart of every living being, am called Adhiyagna, or I'm also called the Lord of all sacrifices. So Adhiyagna is a title of Sri Krishna. Why? Because he is the one who dwells in the hearts of all the living beings. And such a supreme personality who dwells in the hearts of everyone is called as Adhiyagna. Another meaning to it is the Lord of all sacrifices. That also is Adhiyagna. The title is given to Sri Krishna. So far, we have got the responses of 6 questions. Let's quickly revise and let's find out whether we've understood it properly or not. First of all, please tell me what was the first question raised by Arjun?
The first question was, what is Brahman? And it means the supreme indestructible entity.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Right. Now, let's talk about it in sequence. What is the second question and the response to it?
The second question was, what is Adhyatma? And that means the one own self.
Yes, one's own self. Beautiful. Yes. The third one.
The third one is
Arjun.
Dharma. Go ahead.
I was also going to say the third one is karma, which describes the actions pertaining to the material personality of living beings. The development of this is karma.
Okay, very good. Now, the fourth one. Ms. Pranay, will you answer this? Fourth one.
The fourth one is Adibut. It's a physical manifestation that is constantly changing.
Yes, Adibut, which is constantly changing. And then we go to the fifth one, Adhidaiva.
Adideva is the universal form of God which presides over the celestial gods in this creation.
Yes. So basically you read it out, but is the concept clear for everyone? What is Adhidaiva? Yes. Then, how about the sixth one?
Adhyagna Yag is the
Yes,
Lord
Adhiyagna.
who dwells in the heart of all living beings. It's also called Lord of Sacrifices.
Yes. So it's the title of Sri Krishna who dwells in the hearts of everyone. Very good. So these were the 6 questions raised and the responses given by Sri Krishna. I just wanted to share one picture with you. Just a moment. Share. Now, you can see this picture. I just got it somewhere on the Google. The very central triangle which we can see is Adhyatma. And that Adhyatma Where does it lie? It lies in the Adhibhut. Adhibhutika is Adhibhut. So the yellow color square that you all can see is the Adhibhut, which means the constantly changing material realm. And all this, whether it is Adhyatma or Adhibhut, all that lies under the control and supervision of Adhidaiva. Adhidaiva is the presiding Supreme Lord Sri Krishna himself. So Adhidaiva is encompassing Adhibhut as well as Adhyatma. So this is how we understand that the self, the Atma, is lying in the constantly changing world. All that is again under the control of Adhidaiva. Now let's proceed to the fourth verse of Bhagavad Gita today. Rather, fifth one. Sorry. We've already done the first one. Now the fifth verse, in which Sri Krishna says, "Those who relinquish the body while remembering me at the moment of death, they come to me." There is certainly no doubt about this. So the main challenge is when one drops their body, they may be suffering through illness. They may have n number of other thoughts in their mind. They may be struggling to drop the body. Therefore, the end moment is very, very difficult for anyone and everyone. However, even during that time, the last breath, if one remembers the Lord, he goes to the abode of Sri Krishna. And therefore, Sri Krishna says, absolutely, certainly, this will take place. There is no doubt about it. So, for us, the essence of this verse would be, even if we are very sure that at the last moment, if we remember the Lord, we will go to his abode. But the most important thing is that how do we cultivate the habit, or how do we make it possible that at the last breath we remember nothing but Sri Krishna? Because there are so many other distractions come in the way, and those distractions will take our mind away from Krishna. And one may fall in the cycle of birth and death again. So, how do we practice this? That also will be explained by Sri Krishna in the ensuing verses. Now, I'm just reading out what is there in the sixth verse. Whether one remembers upon giving up the body at the time of death, O son of Kunti, one attains that state, being always absorbed in such contemplation. So, there is a saying, I think the elders may know this saying. It is said, Antyamati Soi Gati. Whatever you remember in the last breath of your life, the last moment of your life, that state you will attain. If you remember Sri Krishna in the last moment of your life, you will attain his feet and his abode. But if one is not able to remember Sri Krishna, if he gets stuck up in the material realm, he will come back into the cycle of birth and death and keep on revolving in the material realm. If somebody remembers some other celestial gods, now please be attentive. That soul will rest in the celestial abodes. However, as we know, that even if one goes to rest in the celestial abodes, it is temporary. As soon as your merits decline or they are completely exhausted, again you have to come back to the mortal world. So going to the celestial abodes is as if going on a holiday. When your earnings are exhausted, you will have to come back and earn. All this we will go into a little more depth as we keep on doing our verses. But as of now, we need to understand that in this verse, Shri Krishna says, whatever you remember in the last breath, that is what you attain, in simple words. Therefore, our mind is very clear that we need to remember Shri Krishna, and remembering Krishna in the last breath is not easy at all because there are so many other distractions that will come and will make us forget remembering the Lord. Therefore, there is a practice to be developed right from now, at whatever age we are. Right from now, we need to practice how do we remember Sri Krishna at the final moment of our life. That is what chapter 8 is all about. So Sri Krishna will now slowly bring that concept in the mind of Arjuna. So this was the 6th verse, where Krishna also said that being always absorbed in such contemplation. Let me tell you, there was a joke that a person was a shopkeeper and he would always sell goods to his buyers. Even at night, even in his dreams, he would do the same thing. The mind is so involved. Just imagine that. That at the last moment of his life, what he can think about, he can only think what he has practiced throughout his life. If there is another person, let us say, if he has a business of selling clothes, what he will remember is what he has practiced, because that is what is there deeply in the mind. Therefore, here Krishna will introduce to us a way of life, the way of living your life in such a way where you are not only doing your worldly or physical activities, but at the same time, you are practicing to chant the names of Sri Krishna. Remember him by his pastimes, by his names, his qualities or virtues, by whichever thing you can do so. However, there should be a skillful balancing between the worldly transactions and practicing to remember Sri Krishna. Both are important in their own places. So, Sri Krishna will slowly explain it to Arjuna in the same chapter, the 8th chapter. Now, I think today's last verse, the 7th one. Sri Krishna says, therefore, always remember me and always do your duty of fighting the war. For Arjuna, just fighting the war. For us, being students or being a housewife or being a doctor, whatever duties that we are engaged in, those are our worldly transactions and physical transactions, which relate to the material realm. But as far as the adhyatma or the self is concerned, the self has got its own transactions. Krishna says that you have to remember me and keep on doing your duty as well. With mind and intellect surrendered to me, you will definitely attain me. This is the formula. This is the trick. You have to be absorbed or immersed in Sri Krishna and his Leelas. That is how we will be able to surrender our mind and our intellect to Sri Krishna. But the question is, Why do we surrender our mind and intellect at all? That is because if we do not surrender it to the supreme power, we are ultimately surrendering it to Maya. Isn't it? We have to surrender our mind and intellect either to Maya or to Krishna. So which one do we prefer? Surrendering it to Maya will cause birth and death again and again. But surrendering it to Shri Krishna will lead us to his abode, which is indestructible, Satchidanand, full of joy and happiness. That is why it is wise that we surrender our mind and intellect not to Maya, but to Shri Krishna. So Krishna says, you will definitely attain me if you surrender your mind and your intellect unto me. Remain absorbed in me. In this manner, you will definitely attain my abode, and there is no doubt about it. So, I hope the message, the teaching of Bhagavad Gita is coming out clearly to you all. If there are any questions, then please let me know. And in the meanwhile, I will just quickly revise from, I think we've done up till the fourth one. So fifth, sixth, and seventh verse. I just quickly ask questions from there, and then we can conclude the session for today. Okay. In the fifth verse, Sri Krishna says, I'm just asking, how does one attain Sri Krishna? As per the fifth verse, what is the answer?
When you come to death, if you remember Shri Krishna, then you can go to his abode.
Yes. So when you come to death, remember Sri Krishna and go to his abode. But is it so easy? It won't be that easy because the body faces so many pains and troubles at the last moment. You know, there is one saying for this. It says that at the time of birth, as well as at the time of death, we feel so much of pain as if lakhs of scorpions have poisoned us. Imagine the poison which is spread because of lakhs of scorpions. And that much pain caused by the poison is experienced by us at the time of birth and at the time of death. So, with all that suffering in the body, with all the distractions of Maya, and throughout the life, if one has been uh, deeply practicing only one particular thing, then it is for sure that that thing will come to the mind in the last breath also. Because that's what you have practiced. Therefore, the practice that we should adopt, as per what Sri Krishna is saying, is that even when you do your worldly transactions, you keep on chanting my names, you keep on being absorbed in me. Otherwise, that pain or those distractions of the last moment will not allow you to remember me. And then, if you do not remember me, he says in the sixth verse, he's made a statement that whatever you remember while giving up the body, that's what you attain. That is the state you will attain. So he says, completely be absorbed and immersed in me. Now, in the seventh verse, Sri Krishna has said to Arjun to keep doing two things. What are the two things? Please refer to the seventh verse.
He says to
Two
fight.
things simultaneously. Yes, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
He says to fight the war and also think and surrender intellect to Shri Krishna.
Yes. Surrender to Sri Krishna, remember him, as well as keep fighting the war. Now, fighting the war for Arjun, because he's an archer, he has to do it. It is a part of his duty. For us, our duties are to study or to take care of children, whosoever we are, whatever duties we have in our worldly life, we have to follow that. as well as keep on remembering Sri Krishna. Now, let me ask you all one thing at my end. This is my question. At whatever age we are, is age a bar in remembering Krishna? Is there any limitation that only beyond a certain age you can remember Sri Krishna or you should remember Sri Krishna? It is not so. At whichever age in your life you understand this concept, you should keep practicing it because we do not even know how much time do we have in our hands. We have heard of so many young people who pass away at a very young age. We have also seen children immediately after birth, they may pass away. This is the mortal world. You can never say anything about life. So Krishna says, where life is so uncertain, why do we wait for a certain age to come where we can start chanting the names of Sri Krishna? We need to do it at this very moment. As soon as we have understood the importance of chanting his names and remembering him. So this is the underlying message of the 7 verses in Bhagavad Gita of chapter 8. So here we can conclude our session, and in the next session, we take it on from here.